Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Hello to our viewers all over the world, whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Roku Worldwide, Amazon Fire, Instagram. We are so thrilled to have you here today. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show is The Corner Bookstore. The Corner Bookstore has become so popular that we actually have 4 people who host this show. Each one does 1 week. So you'll find me the last week of the month. You'll find Mr. Red O'Loughlin the first week of the month, and you'll find Dr. Madeline Chan the second week of the month. This week, our special host joining us from Ghana is Dr. Genevieve Pearl, and she is phenomenal. I can't say enough wonderful things about her. We happened to meet, and I did an interview of Dr. Genevieve Pearl, and she is not only an author, which is a great reason why she's going to be here today, but she's also an African business leader, an SME consultant, a global speaker, a coach, and a mentor. And we have an amazing guest who has joined us backstage. We're going to hear all about him and everything that he's accomplished. But first, let's welcome the good doctor to the program. Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. I'm so happy to host this Corner Bookstore, and I'm looking forward to an exciting engagement with my guest. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I am so thrilled that you're here. Welcome to our family. You and I have had so many wonderful conversations. You are extremely well accomplished, and you are a perfect fit to be on this program. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the show over to you so that you can introduce our guest. Have a fabulous episode.
Thank you so much. Hello, do I have my guest in the studio yet? Okay, so I'm happy to host the Corner Bookstore, and today we have a special guest. Our special guest today is Tim. Eggebraaten. And Tim has been a police officer since 1992 and had many different roles during his career with the Detroit Lakes MN Police Department. He was the DARE instructor, that is, Drug Abuse Resistance Education Instructor, patrol sergeant, investigative sergeant, and chief police. Tim retired in 2016 after 24 and a half solid years in the law enforcement and 3 years as a correctional officer. Like everyone else, Tim faces the challenges of balancing family life with the rigors of the career and trying to keep himself physically, mentally, and spiritually healthy. Tim began talking about his leadership journey in 2016 and found that talking with others about personal and emotional topics helped in his own process, and he learned that others could also benefit knowing that they are not in that situation or that journey on their own. Today, I welcome the phenomenal Tim Eggebraaten to our show. Tim, you're welcome.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, Tim. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Tim, I think you're muted.
Boy, I'm not seeing that here.
We can hear Tim just fine.
Okay, I think Tim is muted. Technology sometimes it happens. So
we can hear
if
Tim.
you can hear me, okay.
I can hear both of you.
Yay! Okay, Dr. Pearl, can you hear Tim?
I can hardly hear Tim, but I can see him.
How about now? Can you hear me now? No? Dr. Jacqueline, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
But Tim, can you hear me? Can you hear me? But yes. I can't hear you.
I love that, Tim. That's fabulous.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, well, so we need to proceed with the show. I'm not sure what's going on. Well, look at that, Tim. You are amazing. Fantastic.
Okay, I'm sure it's technology. Technology, I mean, sometimes can be up and down at the same time. So I just wanted to hear more from you, Tim. I just wanted you to share with us how your journey has been and learning that you've been in the law enforcement and been serving for the past 24 and a half years before you resigned. I mean, I would love to hear something about the journey before we zoom into what your new life and your new career has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be on the show. And yeah, I knew at a young age, probably 5 years old or 6 years old, that I was going to be a police officer. It was something I always wanted to do. And I went to college for it, and I began working in corrections in 1989 and then 1992 as a police officer in Northwest Minnesota in the U.S. And it was a wonderful career, a great career full of ups and downs like anybody would expect, and a lot of challenges, a lot of beautiful things I experienced. And so throughout that, I learned pretty early on that I needed to control the good that was happening and control the bad and control my emotions and try to remember to look for the good, because we still have to deal with the challenging parts of life. And that began to translate throughout my whole career. And then when I retired in 2016, I began speaking about that to organizations and about how do we take on and encounter these challenges that we all face while still looking for the good. And one of those mottos that was given to me as a young child was, I am, I can, I will. My mom used to tell us that all the time, that to respond to challenges with, I am, I can, I will. And so I use that, and I use some music throughout my presentations to engage the audience. And I started writing a book about 7 years ago that finally just came out too. So happy to be here. Doctor, you're muted now. There you go.
Okay. I can, and I will. Positive mindset, because it's all about the mindset. So I love that so much. But I want to find out, in the midst of your career, like you said, you realize that sometimes your emotions, as human as we all are, our emotions can go up and can go down. But the only thing that can keep us going is I can, and I will. So I love the bit of getting us to find the rhythm of our life. Can you tell us a bit about that? Why do you mix your music with your speaking engagement?
I think we're all wired in our DNA with a rhythm. And I think music, even if you're not familiar with the genre or you don't like a particular style of music, I think there's something in all of us that relates us to music. And so when we hear a beat or a rhythm, I think that can bring us back to a point in time. Or if we hear a song on the radio or somebody singing a song, sometimes that song is so connected with our memories that we can bring back memories, good, bad, or otherwise. And so music has always been a part of my life. I was whistling before I could speak, and I have a tune in my head all the time. And so I have found that when I play music and when I incorporate music into my presentations, it makes it a little more unique and memorable for the audience. And again, even if it's a song that I'm making up on the fly, or if it's a song that's very familiar to them, whatever that is, there's just something different about it. And when I'm on stage speaking, and when I wrote my book, and when I'm working with other people, it has nothing to do with me, as if they're my stories and they're my experiences. But my goal is that the audience or the listener or the reader takes those stories and plugs them into their experiences, and they can say, well, I didn't know a person named Norman, for example, but that Norman story reminds me of somebody that in my life, an uncle or an aunt or somebody in my life. And so that's my goal. And with the music, it kind of levels the playing field, so we're all on one field, and it kind of unites us all.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's so amazing because just last week I was speaking to a group of people and I told them that it's never too late to learn a new skill. And I have found a new skill, and guess what it is? I'm learning how to play the violin.
Woo!
Well, it's just amazing listening to you speak about how I'm a public speaker, and I'm like, it would be so good for me to learn how to play a violin, and then once in a while play it whilst I'm about to speak. So I am encouraged, and you're my mentor here. You're going to mentor me well to become a great musician. Whilst I play, I sing, and I speak, and then people are encouraged. Thank you so much for that. I also want to find out, I mean, your books that you've written. I know you've written a book about finding your beat, or find your beat, and then walk in the rhythm of life, and then imposter syndrome, which is a critical thing to all of us. I mean, every human being on this earth at a point have faced this syndrome called imposter syndrome. So I would love you to talk briefly about maybe any of your books, and you touch more on the imposter syndrome one. Thank you so much, Tim.
Absolutely. So this is the only book I have so far. My first book, like I said, it was about a 7-year project, and I started writing stories about my experiences. And as I was writing the stories, a coach in kind of encouraged me to be more open about my experiences. And I was hesitant at first because they're very personal, and obviously they're my experiences and the mistakes that I've made in life and the successes. And so once I started getting more open with that, then the process kind of flowed a little bit better. And then it would lay in the back burner for a while. And about a year and a half ago, I hired a writing coach, and we worked on this book, and he really encouraged me to really open up. And as I got my first 3 chapters back after he had kind of made his magic with them, I was very scared to open it. Those 3 chapters sat in my mailbox, my email for about 4 days before I could open it. I thought, you know what? I don't need a book. This is a dumb idea. Who am I to write a book? And all of that running through my head. And so I finally released the book. And 3 days after I released it, I got a message from a police chief from a pretty big agency that said, "Thank you. I needed this." And now I'm getting messages from around the world, and it's humbling and powerful, but it was very scary to put all that out there and to include my family in these stories. And it was scary for them. So, but yeah, I had that whole feeling of like, well, I'm not an author. Who am I to even talk about these things? I'm not a mental health expert, but here I am talking about mental health and wellness. But it was the whole process was very healing for me personally. And then now I'm finding that people are reading the book and they're taking different parts of it and applying it in their lives, and they're having positive reactions to the stories. So it was everything I was hoping it was going to be and more. It's been wild.
What an incredible day of technology they're having there, I guess, in Ghana, wherever Dr. Geneva is. So, Tim, I love how you talked about how you brought the things together, and it's not something that we hear about on a regular basis. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was when it came to writing, your background in law enforcement, you have to work out of one side of your brain, which I would think is, and the other side of your brain is the creative side, right? With the music and the writing. And so I wondered, while you were in that, in law enforcement, was your creativity being stagnated somewhat? And so now it's sort of like an outpouring that it was trapped for years and it's like a geyser flowing?
A little bit. The music, I've been doing music and performing and entertaining for uh, 25 years, I suppose. So that part of it, and I make up songs on the fly, and I do that, and so that part of it was one way. The writing was brand new. I didn't start reading for fun and for enjoyment until I was 50 years old. And right when I retired, somebody gifted me a book, a murder mystery, and I had never read for fun. And so that was a whole new world to me. Reading for enjoyment and to learn more about different things. And so when I started writing, I smiled when you mentioned that, because the first writings they read like a police report. They were horrible. So through the 7 years of writing, thankfully I found my voice, and I found a way to show the reader what I'm talking about, instead of just, that I did this and he did that and she did this. And so it was, that part of the process was fascinating to me, because it forced me, and I had good coaches along the way that kept saying, well, okay, you're describing this, but like, tell me more about it. We're talking about a scene here. Tell me more and show me through your words what you're talking about, and take us on that journey. And so that part of the writing, that creative part, was fascinating, and it was so fun to learn. And then now I'm writing something pretty much every day. I have other books in my head, and this is from a guy that, like I said, I'm pretty new to the book world. Now I'm finding the independent libraries and the bookstores and public libraries and all these beautiful spaces, meeting other authors, and it's, so some of it's all brand new to me, but a lot of it we all experience the same feelings, don't we, as authors, wondering, I wonder if this is even going to land with anybody, or does it matter? That imposter syndrome again, but it's a beautiful experience. And so if you are sitting on the edge, then you're wondering, should I write a book? Does anybody need a book, or does anybody need to hear what I have to say? I would say the answer is yes, and get on it. And it's start that process, get that in that habit of writing, and you'll find that in your mind, your life kind of, it becomes more clear why you made the decisions you do. And it's a beautiful process.
I love the positivity that you have. And something that comes to light for me that I want to ask you is, you've seen a lot of negativity. You've seen some things that are probably horrors that for others they might not be able to get past, or they have a lifetime of therapy. And yet you've been able to take your experiences, and by the way, thank you for your service and for giving all that you gave to keep us all safe. Does it ever come up for you? Do you ever have feelings where you go back to where you were and you get flashbacks of things that you've seen or you've had to be involved with? And if so, how does that impact your day-to-day life?
Oh, great question. So I do go back. There's a picture right here. I'm not sure. There it is right there. That's one of my best friends and partners. He was a friend and partner of mine for 19 years, and he died by suicide about 10 months into my chief of police career. So his death really rocked my world. And I had over 20 years of law enforcement trauma and different things and that were going on in my life. And I was horrible at dealing with them. I'd shove them all down, all these experiences. And what I learned through my friend Chad's death was that to sit with those memories and not try to repress them or push them away. And so I do that. And I meditate regularly, and I'm very mindful, practice mindfulness. And so that helps me to I don't want to forget my friend Chad. I don't want to forget the experiences that I had, because each experience I've had brought me to where I am at today. And I'm thankful for them. And so I do think about traumatic experiences, but I don't think about them in the same way that I did before, because before I would try to shove them down. Like, okay, the memory would pop up and I would just like, okay, I don't want to think about that. I'm going to do something else to forget that, but I don't want to forget. And so I do think about them, but they don't affect me the same way that they did 20 years ago and 10 years ago. And so it's a process and it's a practice, and just to sit with those. I went to a psychologist shortly after Chad's death, and I thought I was going crazy. And he assured me I'm not going crazy, that these are natural thoughts, that we have to deal with them. And so he was the one that encouraged me to, instead of trying to shut off that video that's playing in my head, maybe let it run through and just sit with it and experience it. And, how is this making me feel? And so I do that, and it's not scary.
And I love the confidence and the passion that you have for what you're doing. I wanted to ask you, because this comes up for me as a broadcaster. I'm very confident right now doing what it is I'm doing, but to get up on a stage and you're performing, that's putting on a different hat and a different mindset. And many times we hear from celebrities who are out there that they're a nervous wreck backstage. They're almost going to get sick. They're shaking. And you've been in the public domain for so long in public service. How do you feel when you grab an instrument, you get up on stage, and how do you feel? Are you shaking in your boots, so to speak, or you look at me, I've arrived?
Yeah, no, I used to get nervous. I used to, I've sung at weddings and funerals for many, many years. And I used to get nervous because it was about me. I would be up there with my guitar and everybody's looking at me, but I made it about me. And it was many years ago, I played for a funeral of a 16-year-old girl in our community here. And then it hit me, you knucklehead, it has nothing to do with me. So I'm up there, I'm doing something that I have a gift for, music. And if that song and those songs that I'm singing can make this family's day a little bit better. I couldn't have imagined losing a 16-year-old daughter or son. And so then it hit me that had nothing to do with me. And so when I projected that out, that what I'm doing, I've been given a gift and I'm sharing this gift with this family, then all the nerves went away. And so that's how I take on every speaking engagement, every podcast, every music gig that I'm doing. I take it with reverence, because your listeners are giving of their time right now. And you both are taking your time to ask me questions. And so I respect that. I honor that time. And I recognize that it has nothing to do with me. And if something I say or something I do, like write a book or sing a song, makes somebody's day a little bit better, then I'm all in every time. And so I don't get nervous. I've spoken in front of large audiences, and I've sung before. I think my biggest audience was about 42,000 people. And I just don't get nervous because it's not about me.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. So, when we think about storytelling, you're an expert when it comes to storytelling. I love a good story. When I was in corporate before I retired, I ended up having a boss 30 years younger, and he said, use too many words, you write too many sentences. Think about putting it into a Twitter, the number of characters in an X feed, whatever it's called. So, what do you find about the younger generations in terms of storytelling and attention span?
That's a great question. I have three sons, and they range from 32 years old down to 24 years old. And so the 24-year-old, I would consider him the younger generation. I don't know what their title is, millennial or whatever it is, but I look at that generation. They're technology savvy. They're all of that. I think their attention span, it is in smaller bites. When I wrote my book, my coach and I thought that we would want a smaller bite-sized book. So it's only 132 pages. It packs a punch, but that's kind of the attention span. So that was intentional how we made the size of the book. A lot of the stories that I wrote ended up on the cutting room floor or possibly for another book. But we wanted to keep it kind of bite-sized so people are reading it an hour and a half, 2 hours. And that's been a positive thing for younger people. So I do see that attention span a little bit smaller, but I think for storytelling, it still has to be relevant. And I think that's going back to music again, that people will say, oh, that's an old song. That's an old song. I don't like it. Well, but if it was a hit in 1964, why wouldn't it be a hit now? What's different about it? The message, is the same. And so I think that the story has to be relevant. And when we can do it in a way and attach it to feelings, when we're singing or when I'm speaking and throwing in some music, that's what's going to make it memorable. And so the book, that the fact that it was written by a police officer or a police chief or whatever, makes it a little bit unique, that they're saying, okay, well, what does he have to say? And but the stories, that's where I really want to dial in on our humanity and what makes us tick. And that's, I think, what is going to make it stick with people, is that it is relevant. It's relevant to all ages.
Beautiful perspective. Thank you for sharing that. When I'm not broadcasting, I'm usually working out or teaching fitness classes. And I received a review recently that the instructor has very high energy, but the music is dated. And I like to play a lot of music from the 70s. And so my question for you is, when you think about the work that you're doing, you've tremendous number of positive testimonials that are out there. If somebody says, hey, this could be better, this could be different, do you try to make them happy, or do you just go with what it is that you know and what you're doing and what other people think doesn't matter?
I take a mix of that. I get survey results every opportunity I get, and I look at them. But like everybody else, there can be 100 positive, like this was amazing, life-changing. And then there'd be one, I wouldn't even call it negative, but one comment that just sticks with me. And if it's something I can change, I had one comment that, why are we having a white male police chief come talk to us? I can't change any of that. So that, but I still remember it, right? But there's nothing I can do about that. And so but if it is something that I whatever, I don't know. I don't get very many negative comments in my book. Thankfully, you would think I'd have pretty thick skin being a police officer for almost 28 years. But I don't. I have thin skin, and I was scared to death. I've recorded 3 albums, musical albums, and a couple of single songs. And that was always my biggest fear was, oh, what if somebody doesn't like it? And, but the reality is that there are going to be people that don't like it for whatever reason. But if it is something constructive that, hey, what if you took this story and then you moved it over here and kind of attached them, or, you know, had more of a thread going through them or whatever. If it's something constructive like that, I'll listen to it every day. But most of them that I'm getting, if they are negative at all, it's just, you know, the food was bad at the conference or the air conditioner was on too high or something. It's like, well, I have no control over that. But it's, but I try to have thick skin and then recognize that it's from their perspective, and maybe they were having a rotten day or whatever. But if it is a nugget that I can implement, I implement it. I try to anyway.
I think there's so much validity in what you just shared, because when we think about finding our beat and walking into the rhythm of life, we can't be knowing what's going on with someone else. We can only give them grace and say, okay, we met for a certain reason, and maybe you have anger or you've got some depression or something coming up in your life, and now you're just throwing that on me.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go through the various times in our life, different scenarios, different professions, how does that rhythm of our life, how does that beat change?
I think hopefully the goal is, as we gain these experiences, hopefully we're gaining wisdom with that. And so I don't know that the rhythm actually changes, you know, and I don't even know, the definition of rhythm of life is going to be different for everybody. I talk about harmony and I talk about that rhythm, and what your rhythm of life is going to be different than somebody else's. But that's the point, though, is we have to find our rhythm, find that harmony and that balance in life. But we're always going to be looking. And it's like a 6-string guitar. If one of those strings is out of tune, if one of those aspects of our life is out of tune, we need to pay attention to that and kind of tune it up so that all 6 strings together sound harmonious again. So I think that our rhythm of life, I don't know that it changes throughout our life, but hopefully the goal is to be curious about other people and, you know, genuinely curious and ask questions and then learn more about other people, where they're at, where they're coming from, where they're going. And then by knowing that and learning that, hopefully that wisdom comes along with it. And, you know, I found for myself that when I confront these ideas in my head, that, you know, when I see somebody and I think, I know exactly what they're all about. And people did it with me for years when I was in uniform. They thought, oh, that guy's a cop, I know everything about him. You don't know anything about me. And so but I would do the same thing. I think we all do that. We see somebody, we think we know all about them. But if we're genuinely curious, and now in this election year again for our United States of America, I think we're going to get polarized even more again. But if we're genuinely curious about, well, tell me why you're going to vote for that person, or if you don't know who you're going to vote for, you know, what is important to you, and then be silent and listen, and not with the intention of saying, well, but well, you're an idiot, you think that way. And I think we've lost some of that. If we just silence ourselves and ask the question with the intention of getting an honest answer from them, and then just so that we know more about that person, instead of like, well, yeah, but don't you think? Yeah, but we see a lot of that too. So
I am laughing because I teach people how to listen, and you are spot on. Everyone's judging everyone. If I say A, you say B, and then we're no longer listening. One thing that brings us together, in addition to sports, right? It doesn't matter where you're from. People like cheer their favorite team, is music. And music is such a great way for us to share experiences together. What is it about music? Even though I just mentioned that someone said that my music was dated, it was still a great song. American Pie, are you kidding me? It's classic. Come on. It's a classic. But what is it you think about music that brings us all together, that one minute we can be going back and forth, you're an idiot, you're this and you're that, and then we're singing a song together?
Yeah, I think it's like I said earlier, I think it's tied to an emotion. So American Pie, I mean, I remember the first time I heard that song, and it was linked with positive emotions, where these younger people, they're just hearing a bunch of us old people sing it, and but everybody knows it, and Take Me Home, Country Roads, and songs like that. But I think for us, they're linked to an emotion. And for the young people, the songs that they're listening to that are on the radios or satellite radio or whatever, is linked to their happy times, to their sad times when they broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and then this song was playing on the radio, and it's so they're going to link that with that emotion, or their first kiss, or their first date, and their first dance, and this was the song that was playing, and so it's going to be different for us and for each person. But I was going into a hotel in Tennessee, and the clerk, young lady, and she was singing the song, and I don't remember the song, but it was an older song. And I said, I love that song. And she obviously loved it too, because she was singing it. And she said, oh, it's an old song. That's an old song. And she like dismissed it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You were just singing it. You did a great job. So there was something that triggered something in her brain that that song was on her mind, so she was singing it. But then I think some people will judge, and I think that's what she was afraid, that I was going to judge her for whatever reason. And she's like, "Oh no, that's an old song. It's an old. I don't like it." But so I think that when that music is tied to our emotions, and again, I think it's more rudimentary than that. I think it's the rhythm. I really do. I think there's something in rhythm, because we can go back thousands of years before songs and stories were told, and they had some rhythm to it. Even if you're telling a story and you're speaking it, you can say it in rhythmic form. Hip hop and rap music. I like that music, not the angry stuff, but I mean, even the angry rap music where they have something to say and they want to say it. And so I think that's an expression for us. It's a way to get what we have on our mind, to get it out. And it's whatever the genre is, it resonates with somebody or not. And if it doesn't, then it still feels good to let it out.
I agree with you. And I'm wondering, when you think back to your career in law enforcement and what you've put out into the world with the storytelling, you've been performing music for a long time. Are there therapies or techniques or disciplines that people who have been arrested, or they've gone down a path that didn't serve them, that they could embrace and change their life?
Oh, I think that, again, music is going to be a big part of that. I think that no matter what line of or what walk we're walking in our life, I think that we can all benefit from meditation, whether that's a walk through the woods or out in a busy street, and just being mindful of where you're at, your breathing, all of that, I think, can help us. Not necessarily, we're not trying to control our thinking, but we can kind of get a better handle on our thinking, like slow it down a little bit. I know I used to be very anxious when I would drive in metropolitan areas and just get angry at people that would cut me off, and all alone in my car yelling at them, and they'll never hear me. But since mindfulness and meditation have become a daily routine, I find myself just much more relaxed in a situation like that. So I think whether you've gone to jail or you've made mistakes, or there's addictions in your life, or we all deal with demons of some sort. And this I am, I can, I will is so simple. And I'm cautious throwing that out there because, somebody that's having a really tough time in life might just say, well, you can't just say, I am, I can, I will, and things will get better. I agree. However, that being said, it's a great place to start. I am, I can, I will. I am going to get through this day or this challenge. I can get through this challenge. I will get through this challenge. And whether that's not going to be by ourselves. And that's part of the I am, I can, I will, that I. We don't do this gig alone. people listening to this podcast and watching this interview are going to hopefully reach out to somebody if they are experiencing something. But we're not designed to go through this life independently. We're designed to go through collaboratively with people supporting us and by us supporting other people throughout the process. And so I think if you are in a situation where you feel like you keep messing up and it's the same thing over and over again and you find yourself in trouble, I think one of the ways is convincing yourself that you're worthy of it. I am, I can, I will. And finding that help, that support network. If it's the same group of people that you're with and you're constantly getting into trouble, might be the group too. Maybe separate yourself, filter some of that. If you're on the computer and you keep seeing stuff and you get angry every time, start filtering some of that. Maybe that social media isn't necessary for you to be engaged in every day, or gratitude, maybe expressing some gratitude towards somebody else. You get the focus off yourself onto them, that you're thankful for them. They inspire you. Hey, I want to let you know that you inspire me. This is how you make me feel, and thank you. And when you do that, it gets our focus off of ourselves and it releases chemicals and makes us feel better. It's powerful stuff. It's simple, but it's not always easy to implement.
Thank you, Tim. You have helped so many people, and I know you will continue to help so many people as a mentor, as a coach, as a leader, as a storyteller, as an author. When you need mentoring or coaching, you need to turn to someone. Where do you go? You don't have to list specific people's names if you don't want to, but who is it or what is it that helps you when you want to turn the corner and go to the next level?
Yeah, it depends on where I'm at. So like my business, my speaking business, I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. So hanging around with other speakers, and I used to think it was going to be competitive, but it's very collaborative and we share ideas. And so business wise, speaking business, I hang out with other speakers. For authors, brand new world to me, learning more about publishing books and how to distribute them. And I hang out with other authors and I ask questions. I go to the experts. For myself personally, my spiritual health, I go to church. I meditate. I'm very mindful about my daily activities. I get outside. Some days I have to force myself. I put it on my calendar. Hey, take a break, go outside, and just to enjoy the outdoors. And so I think that's the biggest part, is making sure that you're plugged into the community somehow. I'm an introvert. I didn't know that until writing this book. But as an introvert, I have to force myself some days to go to a coffee shop to get energized or to get outside of the house. And so I think the biggest part is self-realization, where you are at, and know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, and then surround yourself with people that can help you with your weaknesses. And then also people that you can share your strengths with to build them up, because by building them up, it builds us up. And that's a huge first step, is knowing ourselves and then sharing with others with no expectation of getting something back, but just throwing it out there like, hey, I see you're doing this, I can help. Here's what I do. And write them a song or something fun and just get after it. But that's the biggest part, is identifying it and then doing it, plugging it all in.
I agree with you. That's beautiful. I think it's having that curiosity and that wonder. And then to your point about having a positive network. And if you find the people around you are putting you down, throwing stones or boulders, then it's time to go somewhere else and set up camp somewhere else. So, Tim, your book, Find Your Beat, Walk in the Rhythm of Life, is available on Amazon. We're going to bring up the Amazon slide again. But what I'd love to have you share for people, maybe just tuning in now, there's people all over the world tuning whenever. What do you want people to take away from reading this book?
We need to tackle the challenges that are in front of us. So we can't sweep them under the rug. We can't pretend they're not there, because if we're not dealing with them in a healthy, productive way, if we're turning to alcohol or drugs to try to drown those feelings, or we're not dealing with them, they're only going to get worse. And so I want people to recognize that there's so much beauty around us. And in law enforcement for 28 years, I dealt with a lot of toxic people and people that, were at their ultimate worst. And but there's always something redeemable in that person and in those activities and in that situation. I think of like when a volcano explodes and then you got that hot lava that comes down and it's black, and when it hardens and there's like no life. And then within a few days, that first green piece of grass or tree is poking through. And it's like, yeah, just when we think things are so dark and miserable, beauty starts popping up, and it's always been there. And the beauty is in the people around us and how we're doing interactions with people, how we're showing up on a daily basis, what's coming out of our keyboard, what's coming out of our mouth, controlling what we can control. That's my biggest hope for people when they read it, is that they implement something from the book and they recognize that there's nobody that has it all together. We all have our flaws and our challenges and our demons that we're wrestling. And I want them to take that and, like any other piece of art or piece of creativity, to plug that into them, into their life, and then just run with it.
Thank you so much, Tim. I have really enjoyed meeting you. I hope you'll come back on this or one of our other shows. For people who are watching or listening, we are showing your page on Amazon where people can go ahead and order your book, Find Your Beat, Walk in the Rhythm of Life. And you just wrote this and had it published. I know it took 6 years, I think, for you to get it published, but it's published in 2024. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to turn to you for the last word to leave our audience with today.
You are, you can, you will. Those are my last words. Believe in yourself, believe in the people around you, lift them up, lift yourself up, and get out there. It's a beautiful day. Go get it.
Thank you very much, Tim. And for people who'd like to contact you outside of Amazon, they can reach you on your website, which is www.offdutychief.com. You're also on LinkedIn as Off Duty Chief, and your email is tim@offdutychief.com. I love the consistency in the branding. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Do come back and see us again, and I wish you all the best.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you to each and every one of you who are watching. Please do reach out to Tim. He has a lot to offer, a lot to share. If you're interested in a keynote speaker, Tim is your person. Please go over to Amazon and purchase his book as well. Remember, if you don't put any energy forth, if you do the same thing over and over again, what can you expect? Probably the same results. So that's what we're all about here, is education. And Dr. Genevieve Pearl had issues with her internet there in Ghana, so we will be bringing her back for another episode. Our next show is coming up. It's The Wise Ones with Mr. Red O'Laughlin. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. Thank you again, wherever you are in the world. God bless you. And thank you for everything that you put out in positivity and lifting up others. We'll be back very shortly. Thank you. This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of the world's first tooth fairy ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZaneCarruth.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.